Hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming. So we'll continue. Today we're gonna talk about entity authentication. And entity authentication is different than message authentication. We have learned before about message authentication. So basically in the message authentication, what we authenticate.
Message?
Sender.
Huh?
Sender.
The sender, authenticate the sender, right? And you know, one thing that we have always to think about authentication. Many of us think authentication only while authenticating the sender or the client. But the reality also, the authentication has to be both ways. We have to authenticate the server and the client. Meaning, if you try to log into your bank account, let's say chasebank.com. So the chasebank.com try to authenticate that you are the correct user, right? You're an authentic person to log in. You have an account and password. Okay, so that kind of authentication we all know, right? But there is one, in my opinion, is much more important than this authentication, that we have to authenticate the server is a good server. Because you could receive by email, a phishing email, and there is a link for chasebank.com, but it's like a fake link to a fake site that tries to take your username and password. That will become much more dangerous. Alright, so authentication has to be natural. The server has to authenticate the client, as well a client has to authenticate the server. So that's completely different than the message authentication, which we spoke about like few lectures before. Alright, you agree? You agree? So today we're going to talk about that, number one. In the second part of the lecture, we're going to talk about the key management, or how we manage the keys, right? So if we are using, for example, private cryptography that needs a private keys shared, right? If I am, as a person, communicate with 1,000 entities, I have to have how many keys? 1,000, for example. Where are they in terms of private keys? How about the public keys? So usually public is our public, but where they are public, where they are publicized, is where you can get them. So the key management is a big issue. So entity authentication and key management is correlated. They are so related that in many books or textbooks they talk about them in the same place. Okay, and here they are in two different sections, but they are very related. All right. So again, entity authentication is a technique that is designed to let one party prove the identity of the other party. Okay, this party could be a process, could be a person, could be a client, could be a server, does not matter. We have to authenticate all of these when we have to communicate. So data origin versus entity authentication. Data origin is like a message authentication. Verification categories, and we're going to talk about entity authentication and key management. All right. So before we have learned about message authentication, which might not happen in real time. So you receive a message, you don't know where is it coming from, you need to authenticate it, but does not need to be a real time. Right? However, in entity authentication is a real time. You try now to log into the server. So the server, before it grants you access, they have to authenticate you. So entity authentications could be real time. Message authentication simply authenticates one message. The process needs to be prepared for each new message. Entity authentication authenticates the claimant, we call it the claimant and verifier. Claimant and verifier, the claimant for the entire duration of a session. When you log into your email server, you are authenticated. You don't have to keep authenticating for every message you read. Alright? Right? When you log in, for example, to your UB account in the computer in here, you log into, so there's so many applications installed, you don't have to keep authenticating. You already authenticated. So you authenticated once for multiple things that you could do. So how we authenticate? How you get authenticated? Okay? Either by something you know, or something you possess, or something you inherit. Alright, this is the different things. Okay, about how can you authenticate? So the very simple authentication technique that you learned long time ago is passwords. Passwords. And the passwords, there is two kinds of passwords. There is fixed passwords and temporary password, or session password, or one-time password. Password for one time, or password for many times that you have it. So the simplest and oldest method of entry authentication is the password-based authentication. All right, where you have a password, okay, or the claimant has a password that you need to verify it. So take a look in here. This is very simple. Here you have Alice. Alice is the claimant, okay, claiming, and their Bob is the verifier. All right, so you need to access. So usually the verifier has a table of passwords. So Alice, since the login name, for example, and the password. All right. So you gotta look up in the table for Alice. That's Alice. It has a password, and the password will be sent. So you gotta compare the password entered with the password entered in your table. If they are the same, then grant access. If they are not the same, what you do? Reject the access. All right, simple, very simple. Okay, that's the simplest thing you could do. This is the first approach. The second approach, okay, to make it stronger. All right. You know, the problem is there's always a problem when you save the password in your file, right? Somebody could access the file. Usually this file you have to make it readable, right? So that's a problem. When you go to Unix, for example, there is /etc/password. Where you save the password, the passwords are hashed there. There's no real password, right? And that's what we do in here. So Alice, the claimant, sends the password with the login name. Now you're gonna go to the table, you look up Alice, but you don't have the password in here. You have a hashed version of the password. So what you save in the table? The digest. So the process will take the password, hash it. If the hashed password equal to the stored hash password, then grant, otherwise deny. So this is an extra security that we don't save the passwords on the files. We save the hashed values of the passwords. Even better, okay, what's the problem with the hashed values? I mean, usually the hash function we use supposedly to be one-way hash functions, all right? But usually they give you a digest, you know, it's small and all of that. So there is a problem, you know, so this is like prone for what? For dictionary attack. So, you know, you could, if for example, the password length is like 5 characters, all right? Or 10 characters. That means the options will be like about million. So a simple programming could have a dictionary attack, will try all the combinations and hash it and you can get it. So we need to make it much more complex. So what we do in the third approach, okay, so Alice sends the password with the Alice in here, And when you save it in the table, you save a sort. A sort, which is like a random, long random number, all right? And we do hashing not only for the password, all right? Somebody will ask, okay, we could make the password very long, right? The only problem that you have to remember this password. So usually, like people after 15, character password, they cannot remember it. So you could make it 15, you could make it 20, but it's not long enough. It's like you cannot have a password like 200, for example, characters. And if you can, it's gonna take you forever, to enter the password, right? So you don't do that. We have a sort, all right? So sort, which is a random number, will be concatenated with your password, and then the hash value is stored. So when you're trying to access, yes, you enter the password. The password you enter will be concatenated with the sort stored in the table, and everything will go to the hash function. If the output, which is the hash of the password concatenated to the sort, equals to the hash of the password concatenated to the sort, then grant. If they are different, then deny. So we went from a simple password file to a hashed password to hashed password with sort. And by the way, that's how it's used in Unix. This technique in particular, that's how in Unix is used.
Do they use the same sort for all the passwords?
No, it's a random. All right. In the fourth approach, two identification techniques are combined. A good example of this type of authentication is the use of the ATM card. So what you use? The card and the PIN number. So when you have like multiple authentication techniques combined together, will make it more strong, much more strong. Okay. All right. So that we were talking about password. This is kind of remember that we said that the passwords could be permanent password, or one-time password. One-time password.
OTP.
What?
It's like OTP.
What's OTP?
One-time password. Like Arabic.
That's what I said. One time. Okay. All right. One-time password, right? All right. So now the one-time password, there is different approaches as well, right? Different approach, right? Okay, in the first approach, the user and the system agrees upon a list of passwords. So let's say you and me, we need to, we agree in 100 passwords. So we know the first time you communicate, you're gonna use the first password, the second, the third, the fourth, agreement, right? Okay. So is it practical? It's possible, but it's not practical, right? Okay, so the second approach, the user and the system agree to sequentially update the password. So you start from one password, but in a certain way, the second time you use the password is like updated, certain process. So the second password is derived from the first. The third one is derived from the second, and so on and so forth. All right? It looks much more nicer because this way you have to remember only the first one, and the number of the usage. So if this is the fifth time, so it will be derived of the derived of the derived of the derived of the first one. All right? In the third approach, the user and the system create a sequentially updated password using hash function. So the first one, for example, okay, this is the value, you create the hash function. The second one, it will be the hash of the first one. So you take this one, you hash it, this is for the second time. And up to n-1.
Is there probability that we can come back to the original one with hashing?
Come to the original one? This is supposed to be one-way hashes, right? So you could go one way, you cannot go the other way. So, right? So, for example, this is a technique called Lamport one-time password. All right, and it's like in the third approach. So what you have in here. So, for example, we have Alice. Alice would like to be verified. So it will send Alice. All right, Alice. All right, and it will. I mean, like they agree. I mean, like there's a sequence, right? So n this n we're gonna keep changing. Whenever we use it, you know, n is the maximum. So if after the first use it will become n minus 1. After the second use will be n minus 2 and so on and so forth. It will be changed. Okay? So n, and this is the hash nth time of the password. P0 is the first, the nth time. So it's kind of like you agreed that you're gonna have 100 times. So you calculate the hash of the hash of the hash of the hash, how many times? N time, 100 times or n times. So here will be like n times and the value. So let's say this is the first time. Alice will ask for the password. It will send n to where? To n to Alice. So Alice will calculate the hash n minus 1, or will use, because they agreed in the passwords of the password. It will send it. All right, you calculate the hash. If the hash are equal, then you grant access. Otherwise, don't you grant the access. And if you grant the access, now what you have to do? You have to update the data in the original in the table. So it will be you have to update the n minus 1, and the hash will be for the hash n minus 1. So we keep going down from n minus 1, n minus 2, minus 3. Okay. So it's until then after that you have to restart again. All right. So the first technique for entity authentication is talk to me. Password. And there's two types of passwords. Are one-time password
Fixed.
and fixed password. Okay, so far. So the second technique, is there a problem with the passwords? Yes, there is a problem. That basically the password has to be saved on hard disk drive somewhere. You know, it's so maybe there is a better technique than that. The second technique is the challenge response. The challenge response. So in the password authentication, the claimant proves her identity by demonstrating that she knows a secret. She knows a secret, or he knows a secret, which is the password. In a challenge response authentication, the claimant proves that she knows a secret without sending it. So in the password, you know a secret, send it to me to prove it. Now we're trying to do it without sending it. So whenever we can spare ourselves from sending the secret over the internet, over the network, that's good, right? It will be a good thing. So the topics discussed is using different techniques, asymmetric key cipher, or symmetric key cipher means what? Private cryptography, or using keyed hash functions, or using an asymmetric key cipher. When you say asymmetric, that means we have public and private keys, and then using digital signatures. 4 techniques. Let's take a look at them. Okay. Right. So again, in challenge response authentication, the claimant proves that she knows a secret without sending it to the verifier, without sending it. All right. But we have to send something. but we are not sending what? The secret. Okay, we are beating around the bush. Okay, so the challenge is a time varying value sent by the verifier. The response is the result of a function applied by the challenger. So the claimant will challenge, or the verifier will challenge the symbol. So the first approach is the nonce challenge. So in here what you have, Alice, all right, okay, Alice, okay, sends a message to Bob. It says, I am Alice, I would like to be verified. All right, so what Bob does, or the verifier what does, it will send a nonce. Nonce is any value, okay, RB, which is coming from Bob to Alice. And what Alice does, okay, it will send the same nonce, but this time is encrypted with the key which is shared between Alice and Bob. So Alice and Bob, they're sharing a key, right? Did they send the key? They did not send the key. Did they send any secret? No. So Bob, Alice says, Bob, I would like to be verified. Bob says, okay, again, I send you something, send it back to me. Okay, so it's sent a nonce, and then Alice will send the something encrypted with their common key. So Bob, what will do, will unlock the key, will check inside the box what they have, RB. If the RB received equals to the RB sent, then Bob is verified. Then Bob is verified. Simple? Simple? Yeah, simple. Okay. The second approach in here, okay, because the other one could be also replayed, so you have to have timestamp. So the same thing in here. What will happen? Okay, what is the nonce? Is a timestamp. So Alice put a packet together which includes its name, identity, and the timestamp, lock it with the shared key, and send it to where? To Bob. Alright? Send it to Bob. So if Bob is able to unlock it, okay, then it's authenticated. That will show it's authenticated. Third approach in here, bi-directional. So before in the previous two, Alice authenticated to Bob. I need now both directions to be authentication. So what you do in here, Alice, okay, will communicate with Bob. Hello Bob, could you please verify me? Then Bob sends the RB like before. Then Bob sends two things. It sends the RB received and the new nonce from Alice, and both are locked. Both are locked. So if you're gonna go to the Bob will use the key, will get the RB which was sent before. If they are the same, that means it's truly Alice. Alright? But you know, Bob also need to verify itself to who? To Alice. Then send back the RAB back with the same key to Alice. Alice unlock it. So Alice knows the RA which sent, and it knows the RB that was received before. Then both are verified for each other. Both are authenticated to each other. Fair? Alright? Very simple, very logical. Very logical. Alright? Your job just to think how to break it. Okay, to think about it. I mean, it's not a complete system, right? So now using a keyed hash function to make it more secure in here, and okay, so in here, Alice, okay, will send the timestamp, its identity, then it hashes the key with the timestamp. So instead of using decryption for entity, so before what we used, a private key. So they have to share the key. Right? So that means that you have to do encryption and decryption. Time processing, right? Needs some time, right? It's not as fast. How about we don't use like public, private encryption, decryption for authentication? We could use only key hashed function, like Mac. Remember that when we learned about the hash functions, there's two kinds of hash functions, right? One is without key and one with key. You agree? The Mac is with key, right? We use a key. Remember? Right? The key. So basically what you do in here, so you have the key, which is Alice Bob's secret key. Alice and Bob's secret key. Alright? So Alice, send the timestamp and then attach the key which are shared. Okay. Am I sending the key now? Am I sending the key? No, what I'm sending? The hash, which is a digest. So I put the key with the timestamp, hash them. So I'm sending Alice T with the hash. Now Bob will receive it. What does it do? Bob knows the message coming from who? From Alice. Bob knows the time. Bob has a shared key between him and Alice. So what Bob does, put the shared key stored there, concatenated to the time, do the hash. If the hash or the digest received equal to the calculated digest, then it's authenticated. If it's different, then it's not authenticated. Right? Simple. Very simple. Alright? So in here, did I need to encrypt anything? Did I encrypt anything?
No.
Did I decrypt anything? So supposedly, hash functions usually very fast compared to encryption, decryption algorithms, right? It will be, okay. Alright, okay, now we're gonna using an asymmetric key cipher. What does it mean, asymmetric? Public cryptography. That means how many keys we have? 2. What are the keys? Public and private. Alright, private, I keep it. Public, put it everywhere, right? Alright, so the first approach, okay, unidirectional asymmetric key authentication. So, key A, what is key A? Is the encrypted with Alice's public key. So, Alice sends a message to Bob, hello Bob, verify me. Then Bob, what does it do? Okay, it will send, I am Bob, and this is the nonce, encrypted with Alice public key. Can I receive it? Alice will receive it. So can Alice read this box?
Yes.
Yes, because it has what? The private key. It goes, unlock it. Now what reads inside it? Bob. Oh, it's me. It's coming from Bob. RP, which is announce. Alright? Then it goes and sends the RP to Bob. If the same RP sent was received, then authentication happens. Alright? So now I'm using tools. From the first part of this lecture, before your midterm, we'll learn different tools. What are the tools we learn? Public cryptography, private cryptography, hash functions with 2 kinds. These, then we'll learn signature, digital signature, right? All of these are tools. Alright? I use them for whatever I want in a different ways. Right? Then, the second approach is in here. So now, let's take a look at the keys. So KB is encrypted with Bob's public key. And KA is encrypted with Alice's public key. So what is KB? Is the public key of Bob. KA is the public key of Alice, right? Very simple, all right? So in here what you do, Alice put a package together that includes its name and the nonce. Everything will be encrypted with Bob's public key. Now it's gonna go to Bob. Can Bob unlock this box? Yes, with its own private key. Now Bob has a message from Alice, received the nonce. Bob is kind enough to put a package to Alice. You, Alice, send me a package, I'm gonna send you in return a package. What does it include? The nonce was received from Alice, Bob's own nonce, and Bob. It's coming from me, okay, coming from me. And we'll lock it with who? With Alice's public key. Now Alice will receive it. Can Alice read this box? Yes. With its what? Private key. So Alice received Bob. Hi Bob, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. You sent me the nonce I sent you? Yeah, it's intact, it's good. Alright? And this is your nonce. Okay, let me send you your nonce as acknowledgement. So what does Alice do? Sends the nonce of Bob to Bob. Authentication is done. Verified. Alright? Verified. So alright. The fourth technique, which is using digital signature. Do we know what's digital signature? Did we talk about digital signature? We did last class, right? We know what's digital signature, right? Alright. So the same thing, digital signature. Now Alice would like to verify, Bob would like to verify Alice. So Alice, the claimant, send a message to Bob. Bob, hello, I am Alice. I need to be verified. Then Bob sends what? A nonce. Nonce, any value, nonce, you call it nonce. To where? To Alice. Alice received from Bob the nonce. What does it do? It creates a package. It puts Bob, the destination, and it will sign the nonce received, Bob, okay, and it will be signed with Alice's private key. Remember in signature, when we sign things, how we sign it with? With what? Private or public key? With the sender private key. When we sign with the sender's private key. Alright? So Alice will sign it with its private key, and then it's gonna go to where? To Bob. Can Bob unlock the package? Yes. With what? With the public key of Alice. Of Alice. The second approach, different approach now. Okay, digital signature, but now it's bi-directional authentication. Okay, bi-directional authentication. So in here, Alice sends a message to Bob. Hello Bob, I am Alice. Could you please verify me? Then Bob sends a nonce to Alice, or to Alice. Then Alice, what does it do? The same thing like before. It to create a package, includes a new nonce from it, Bob, and then sign the previous nonce received with Bob, and will sign it with its private key. It goes to the Bob will use Alice's public key to read this box, verify everything. Then after that, it will send another package, alright, signed by Bob's private key. It's gonna go to Alice. Alice will be able to read it by Bob's public key. Right? Make sense? Alright. Okay, zero knowledge. In the zero knowledge authentication, the claimant does not reveal anything that might endanger the confidentiality or of the secret. Nothing. Zero knowledge. So the claimant proves to verifier that she knows a secret without revealing it. I know the secret, but I'm not going to tell you. So the interaction are so designed that they cannot lead to revealing or guessing any secret. So difference, there's three techniques mentioned in here. Fade-Shamir protocol, upgraded to Fade-Shamir protocol, challenged by, I don't know how to read it, Galileo. Anybody knows how to read it? Is it Galileo? Galileo water protocol. I'm not sure even what the origin of these names, but who cares, right? So it's a very interesting, this one. Okay, so three techniques, let's go over them quickly. Alright, zero knowledge. Okay, so basically in the zero knowledge authentication, the claimant proves that she knows a secret without revealing it. That's the key. Okay, you know a secret, but you don't reveal it. Okay. So the first one is like Fade-Shamir, okay, and you know it's so basically they announce like a number in the public. So the Fade-Shamir protocol, okay, the Fade-Shamir protocol, they use a trusted third party. First, it starts by choosing like two primes, P and Q, for example. Okay. Okay. So it starts by choosing two primes, P and Q. All right. And it will calculate n like we did before, n which equals P times Q, and that will be the n which is okay, the value of n announced as you see it in here n, it becomes public, so third party will announce it, the n will be public, so this will become publicly announced. Alright. However, I mean, remember that P and Q are primes, and they are huge numbers, and they are kept secret. So these are secret, never know. Okay, right? So the values of n announced to the public, the values of P and the Q are kept secret. Alice, the claimant, chooses a secret number, so Alice will choose S. Okay, Alice will choose a secret number S, okay, and this S, it ranges between 1, okay, it's a greater than 1, okay, S is greater than 1 and less than n minus 1, n minus 1, okay, then she calculates a value called V, which equals, for the number it was chosen, which is S squared, okay, mod n. So n is a public value, all right. S is a secret value. It ranges between 1 to n minus 1. So we start first by choosing a big prime numbers P and Q. We calculate n. Becomes public. Alice will choose an S value. Okay, how can I know the value of S? It has to be greater than 1 and less n minus 1, which is a public value. Then it will calculate V using the S squared mod n. N is a public, S is chosen, and V is calculated. So N is calculated, S is chosen randomly, and V is calculated. Okay. she keeps S as her private key and register V as her public key. So now from all of this process, okay, we have two keys. The private will be S, the public will be V. Alright? The public will be V. Alright? That's what it is. Okay? So when you look in here, what happens? So Alice's S will be the private key, Alice and V will be the public key, and R is a random number. So it starts with the step number 1. What's step number 1? It will calculate X R square, which is a random number, mod n. Alright, this is, we call it a witness. It will be sent where? To the Bob. Bob will pick a challenge. Okay, challenge C will be sent to Alice. Then again, Alice will calculate Y. What's Y? R, which is calculated before. Okay, which is the random number. Okay, S to the power C, the challenge, mod N, and this will be the response. So there is a witness, which is X, and there is a response, Y. Now, the Bob will receive Y square mod N, Y square mod N, and it will be compared with the X, compared with X, which one? X V to the power C, the challenge. If they are equal, then there's 50% chance that it's a good response and good answer. If not, then deny. And you have to repeat this process multiple times, because every time you do it, it will give you a chance of 50%. 50%. So it's like this. Look in here. So in here, let's say that we have the entrance and we have X and Y. Alright, so think about this scenario. You have the entrance and then you have the fork and you have the door, right? So who is the verifier? Bob. Who is the claimant? Alice, right? How can Bob trust Alice if Alice has the secret code? You agree? Right? You agree? Hello? There is no cell phone policy in the class. I announced in the first class. If you need to use your cell phone, go out. Right? So, again, you have at the entrance now, you have who? Bob and Alice. Right? Bob stays here. Okay. And there is a door, opens if the person has the key, the password. Alright? So Alice claims that it has the password. So Alice will go first, will go here. Now Alice either gonna go left or right. And gonna come to the door. If truly Alice has a password, the password, it could go back and forth, right? Right? So let's say that Alice took what? The right direction, came in here. Okay? Let's for a second believe that she has the password. Bob comes to here at the fork. And now needs to verify Alice has the password. Alright? Then he calls, Alice, come from left. Can Alice go from left? Yes, because she has the password.
Password.
Okay. Alice, come from right. Can she go from right? Yes. Right? So, right. Let's now assume that Alice does not have a password. So Alice came from the right direction, right? And she's here. All right. Now Bob's call her. Come from right.
Okay.
Of course, she can come from. She's at the right. She can go. Right?
Only go left.
Okay. Now, if Alice come from left, can she come from left?
No.
No. So what's the chance that Alice has? What is the probability that Alice has the password now? 1/2. 50%. So same like the previous one. What is the chance that the claimant choose the right password or the right random number? Okay, 50%, right? 50%. So the chance in here is 50% only. That Bob only can verify 50% with one trial. So how can we make this this is like 100% sure that Alice has the password? We do it 20 times, for example. So what is the chance that 20% that Alice will be lucky that Bob asked come from right and she's at the right?
0.5.
Okay, so that's why when we said in the previous one in here, this iteration happens multiple times to make sure the verification is correct. Okay, and that's just an example what's happening. Clear? Okay. All right. So, so you could take a look. I mean, the details in here in the book. You could take a look at it. Okay. Then, Fate, Phage have improved the Fate Shamir little bit. So it's a very similar approach, except that it uses a vector of private keys, not one private key, a vector. Multiple keys, a vector of private keys, a vector of public keys, and a vector of challenges. So it can use private keys S1, S2 up to SK, a vector of public keys V1, V2, and up to VK, and a vector of challenges C1, C2 up to CK. So the private keys are chosen randomly as we agreed, but they must be relatively prime to n. And the public keys are chosen by the same equations. How we calculate the V? It was S to the power 2, right? And so on and so forth. So in here, what the only improvement, instead of relying in one variable or private key, we work on a vector for private and public keys and random numbers. Then after that, Gioloyo and the Squatter protocol. Okay, they did extension for the Fate Shamir protocol, in which fewer number of rounds can be used. So the first two, we have to have multiple rounds, and we understand why we have to have multiple rounds. In here, we could have fewer rounds by choosing large prime numbers P and Q, and then calculating n, which is P times Q, and then choosing exponent E instead of the power of 2. The power of 2 exponent. Alright? The last technique for authentication is biometrics. Okay? Biometrics like what? Can you give me example for biometrics? Fingerprint. One more. High thing. Okay, one more.
Iris.
Face recognition.
Which one?
Face
Face recognition. One more.
Iris.
Iris. One more. So basically in here, biometric is a measurement of the physiological or behavior, either physiological or behavior. All you mentioned is the physiological, not the behavioral. Okay, not the behavioral features that identify a person. Okay, so there is like, let's take a look. So several components are needed for biometrics, including capturing devices, processors, and storage devices. So it's much more complex because you need more, you need to integrate some devices to capture all of that. So before using any biometric techniques for authentication, the corresponding feature of each person in the community should be available in the database, right? If we're gonna use the iris, so we have to have the iris image for all the people, right? So we have to create a database for that, okay? And this is what we call it enrollment. You have to enroll these people into the system, right? Okay. So verification and identification. So biometrics basically is the physiological things like fingerprints, thank you. Fingerprints, iris, thank you. Okay, retina, okay, eye retina. The face recognition, thank you. Hands, maybe the size of the hand, I don't know, look at the hands. Okay, the voice recognition, and the DNA. Okay, the DNA. All right. Behavior is like signature and the key strokes. Okay, key strokes. All right. So physiological. These are examples for signature. This is example for signature and key strokes. How we measure their accuracy? By false rejection rate, FRR. What's this false rejection rate? Is like, sometimes you reject people, but they are authentic, so over the total. Or by false acceptance rate. False acceptance rate. Several applications of biometrics are already in use. In commercial environments, these include access to facilities, right? Like, face recognition. Actually, I just got my, the new phones now, what they call this iPhone, what's the latest one? 11. Okay. I mean nothing. I just replaced it from the old one. Nothing. iPhone is iPhone. They just take our money. All right. That's the only thing. The only thing I told my wife is the difference that when it loves my face. When it sees my face, it opens for me. Okay. Face recognition. That's how. Okay. That's the only thing. So if you plan to upgrade, don't. Okay. They take your money for nothing. All right. I don't see any difference, right? But it's really cool. I mean, like this, you see. Just pretty nice and face recognition, and it's really cool. All right. Now I'm afraid. Okay, I tested it myself, so I was worried. I might be sleeping, and my wife bring it in my face and lock it. All right. But I have to keep my eye open. I mean, okay. So if you close, am I closing my eyes? Does it open? No. See?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I kept the system. All right, so otherwise I would have changed it, right? Right? Okay. Yeah, I mean that is very interesting things. Okay, so that's the story of entity authentication. So please don't mix entity authentication with message authentication. Right? Both are very important. The part that many people miss, that when we talk about entity authentication, both parties have to authenticate each other. All right. So myself, okay. I mean, when I get to my bank account, okay, they will authenticate me, right? But it's a very important for all of you. You have to authenticate where you're going. Many of us get stuck with an email from a phishing email. The link, okay, you click, or you enter your name, your password, you're done. You are done. Okay, you're done. You enter all that. Okay. So nowadays, everything you have in your life, you have to have the two-factor, what they call it, two-factor, whatever, sign up. Seriously, it's a serious thing. Actually, my children, all of the okay, I put them next to me, and you're mature now. You have phones. Okay, show me your phone. What do you have? I have WhatsApp. I have whatever, Telegram. I have Facebook. I have all of that. Fine. I cannot control you. I cannot prevent you. Okay. And if you give me the password, you'll change it tomorrow. I don't need all of that. But in front of me, right now, I need all of you to have two-factor, what they call it, authentication, two-factor authentication. All right. And just use the most security in all these applications you could. Okay, that's the most and the least I could ask at the same time. And I made sure that they did that in front of me, and they are on their own. The same thing with you nowadays. Please. I mean, if you have Facebook, WhatsApp, any of the social media, try to have the what they call two-factor authentication. Try to use even the applications nowadays. This is off topic, has nothing to do with this, but also many of us, what they do, they use easy passwords for so many accounts. All right, so many accounts, so that's a problem. There is these programs like Pass, like where they could save the passwords. So even if you have complex, like I have, for example, LastPass myself. All right, LastPass. I think it's like $4. Okay, you buy it or something. So where you could, everything you log in through LastPass, everything logged in. So when you have account, try to create different accounts. You don't have to memorize the accounts anymore, the passwords. It will be saved for you there. And you could put it in your laptop, desktop, in your iPhone, in your system. So automatically when you go to the page, it could pick up, it could generate the password for you. Just try to be very, 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 very careful. It's not a joke, I mean, myself, for example, as I told you, I have like a Google account. I have like 2 tera, I think 2 tera. So everything is there, including my taxes, including my weird photos, including everything are there, right? Imagine that somebody gets to your Google account, I think I'm gonna leave this country. I'm gonna go somewhere after that, so I'll not be able to show you my face, right? So be careful, all right? Until you think about how to be careful, more careful, let's take a break, 10 minutes, and we'll come. Thank you so much. Yep. And you could go check your phone right now. All right, guys. So we'll talk now about key management. As I told you, key management is a big thing, right? Hopefully, like in a couple of the classes, I will do a review for all the material we covered. I'll start from the beginning and I'll go through it. I'll show you how we went like really wide stride. We start from nowhere, okay, vague topics, to like we are going from place to place to place, and we are really covering a lot of things, a lot of concepts. I know that there is a lot of math, a lot of material. I know some of you maybe undergrad students, senior students, and we covered a lot of things. We are almost done with this book, all right? I know that you have a lot of homework to do, but that's the way to learn. I mean, I need you just to finish this course. We have the basics. This I call it the basics of cybersecurity and network security, all right? So when we do the review, you'll see that like what I told you from the beginning, whatever we cover today, it will be very, very important for tomorrow, for next class, right? And so on and so forth. So it's like a build up, okay, build up. And so key management, we were talking about public key and private key. You agree? We spoke about it a lot. So the keys, where are these keys? Where will we save them? All right? So we assume that the sender or the receiver have the public key, the private key, whatever the key, and all of them. Where are they? Where we save them, right? So we have to find a key management. Exactly like, for example, like me, for example, I feel sometimes I'm a janitor. I have so many keys. So all of them in this ring, all right? And every time I go to my mechanic, tell me, you're gonna break your switch in the car. This is too heavy. Tell them, don't worry about it. So what can I do? I mean, you'll be, you know, until now, you know, we are in the century, which century now, 21st?
Yeah.
Okay, and we're still using keys. We should have like a swap, but that's fine, what can we do? So I cannot switch job because of keys, right? You know, and so it's so key management, how to manage the keys, you know, all of these keys, right? So for example, you know, your applications when you log into your Windows connected to the server, okay, there is a lot of certificates downloading, right? Okay, you don't worry about all of these. It's already done for you. So let's take a look quickly how things are happening here. Okay, we'll not delve too much, but we'll try to say a little bit just to understand how it works. Okay, and by the way, for the key management, there's a lot of research going in. It's not ideal yet. Okay, I mean, like, you know, you're talking about like the systems we're using. That's okay, but you know, you're talking about now IoT. Okay, and the security in IoT. You know what's IoT? Internet of everything. Okay, I mean, Internet of Things, but the reality, the vision, it has to be everything. So every chair in here will be connected to the internet. Every camera, every laptop, every pants in the store, every shirt in the store will have RFID and connected somehow to the internet. So the goal is with everything, right? You know, if we're gonna have a security that much and you're gonna have keys, so anyways, there's a lot of research, right? In wireless sensor networks, applications, there's a lot of research. For example, it talks about, like, you know, wireless sensor network key management, right? So anyways, so make a long story short, so symmetric key cryptography is more efficient than asymmetric cryptography for encipherment large messages. So remember we spoke about symmetric and asymmetric. Okay, symmetric is one key shared, right? Usually it's much more efficient. The algorithms is much more efficient, faster. That's why, for example, if I would like to encrypt a hard disk drive, I don't use Diffie-Hellman, for example, right? I use what? Like private key, right? I use like AES or all of these techniques, right? All right. So it's much. So where I keep these keys, that's a problem, right? Symmetric key cryptography, however, needs a shared secret key between two parties. All right. So how many keys usually? If you have n entities, how many keys you're gonna need? N squared minus n. If it's one direction. If it's bidirectional, then n squared minus n over 2. So if I have, for example, 10 entities, I need to they share, like, you know, if I have 3 entities, right? 3 entities, say, they share, for example, you know, how many keys are gonna need in here?
6.
Okay, 6, right?
Yes.
So n squared minus n, okay, over 2, right? Which equals 3 squared minus 3 over 2, which equals 9 minus 3, 6 over 2 equals 3. All right? If I assume like bidirectional, if it's 10, okay, if it's n equals 10, how many are gonna need? 45. Okay, if it's 1,000, how much? Much more. All right? If it's 1,000,000, if it's 1,000,000,000, if it's 1,000,000,000,000 nowadays with the Internet of Things, right? So we have to have key distribution center, KDC, and session keys. So basically, key distribution, you have to have a trusted server that everybody trusts, KDC, key distribution center. And, you know, if Ted would like to communicate with Bestie, this is Bestie, yeah, Bestie, okay, the KDC will generate a shared key with both, then they can communicate. All right, that's the only solution. We have to have a central trusted. So basically, how many keys should save? One. The key with the KDC. All right. Okay, that's the kind of permanent key. And whenever wants to communicate with another party, they will request the key, the temporary key from the KDC, from the KDC, or Key Distribution Center. So it could be a flat, multiple, because the whole word, you cannot have one server to serve, so you could have like many KDCs, right? And you could link them together. So for example, if Alice is connected to KDC 1, while Bob connected to KDC N, for example, and they need to communicate. So basically Bob will request it from its own KDC, the KDC will request it from this KDC, and both will agree on a key. They will share it with Alice and Bob, then Alice and Bob can communicate. Alright? So it's like, even in here today we're not going how it works internally. Okay, it's a very complex topic. Just we're giving you the idea. How is it managed? Okay? So it's not like, it's like, so you could have hierarchical multiple KDCs, as you see in here. Usually, for example, this is local KDCs connected to national KDCs, maybe connected to international KDC. All right? Okay, so it's kind of a network for KDCs. So when you need to communicate with a person, you need a key, shared key with a person in Hyderabad, for example. Alright? Alright? So, there is a KDC closer to that person, there's KDC. So how is the networks of KDCs work that ultimately you're gonna get a key to be able to communicate? Alright? So it's much more complex, which we are not going to delve into here. So a KDC creates a secret key for each member. This secret key can be used only, between the member and the KDC. So you have to have you're connected with one KDC, and whenever you communicate, there's a shared key between you and that KDC. All right, that's all you have to worry about, right? But not between the members. So a session symmetric key between two parties is used only once. So whenever there's a communication, that we call a session, and has to be secure session, you have to create the key. Who creates the key for you? The KDC. The KDC creates the key and informs you and the partner you try to communicate with. Somehow. Okay? Somehow. Alright. So a simple protocol using KDC, the first approach using the KDC, look in here. There's different approaches. We're going to take a look at different approaches, okay, ranging from simple to complicated. So basically we agreed now that Alice and Bob, if they need to have this key, they have both to register with KDC. So what will happen, okay, Alice will send a message to where? To KDC, tells, I am Alice, I would like to have a shared key with Bob. Alright? So number two, what does it do? What the KDC does, of course, there is a shared key between the KDC and both. Right? So what does it do? It will build a package, okay? The package contains Alice and Bob, alright? With what? With the session key between Alice and Bob. So who generates this key?
KDC.
The KDC. And for security, it will be what? Encrypted with KB. What is KB? Okay, KB is in here, is the Bob's KDC secret key. A secret key between here and here. It will be encrypted together, right? So that means when Bob receives this box, will be able to read it or no? Yes. And everything, including the key, it will be encrypted with who? With Alice shared key. With the Alice shared key. So this we're gonna go to where? To Alice. Alice will unlock this key. Now it will get this box in here that she cannot unlock. She cannot unlock, right? But she will get what also? The shared key. It will keep the shared key and will go send the box to where? To Bob. Could Bob unlock this box Yes. Why? Because Bob has the shared key between the KDC and Bob. And that's it. So the first thing, who gonna receive the key? Alice, and then Bob. Now Alice and Bob have the shared key. They could communicate. They could say, communicate with any messages by using that key. Very simple. Very simple, right? Okay. Madam and Schroeder protocol in here. Okay. There is little improvement in here, so. So the problem with the first technique is, unfortunately, this simple protocol has a flaw. Eve, which is the enemy, Eve, okay, can use a play attack to break it, right? So Needham and Schroeder protocol created kind of a ticket system. So let's take a look in here. So now Alice will send to the KDC, I am Alice, I would like to communicate with B. Here is a nonce. Then the KDC, what will do, okay, will generate the key, of course, and will encrypt it with the key that Bob's know, put it in a box, and send the key with the nonce. What is the function of the nonce in here? Why we need a nonce?
Replay?
No, right, to prevent the replay. Alright, now, okay, prevent the replay, okay, received in here, okay, and then it will send to Bob, the box which cannot open, but Bob can open. Now Bob has the key, and then we exchange the nonce encrypted to make sure that there is no replay. So the idea here is to prevent replay. Always in any protocol you see in network security, when you see nonce, it's used to prevent replay. Nonce or time is 10, to prevent the replay, always. Okay? Then a better, more improvement or a different technique is at a Toy and Rees protocol. Okay, it's the same idea, almost the same idea. So the same thing. Okay, so in here it will Alice will send Alice Bob the nonce, okay, the random number and a nonce, okay, and will be encrypted with the key. With the key, it will be sent first to where? To Bob. It will be sent to Bob. All right. So it will be sent with Alice public key. So it will be sent with Alice public key. Okay. So in here we are using what? A public key cryptography to share what? Private key. Public key cryptography to share private key. So it will be encrypted with Alice pop with this is KA, I think.
Alice private.
KA, which is like Alice, which is Alice. Okay, KA is the Alice, actually the Alice KDC secret. Okay, it will go to the Bob, so it will. Okay, this is the KA is the Alice KDC secret. So it's gonna go with the Bob. Of course, Bob will not be able to open this. Will be able to read Alice Bob and the random number. Then now Bob sends it not to Alice, will send it to the KDC. It will send the random number. A nonce came from R, and this is will be encrypted with
Alice.
I can't see it in here with
Alice.
with Alice. Yes, with Alice. So basically, whatever received in here, this box is here. This box is here, sent back to the KDC, and they created another one, similar one, but is encrypted with Bob's shared key with the KDC. All right. Then the KDC will send the key, the generated key, one time to the Bob and one time to the Alice, and then they will verify the message for the display. It's just kind of different way of doing it. All right. All right. We're gonna come to something. Kerberos. Anybody heard about the Kerberos before? Anybody? No? Nobody heard? So Kerberos is some. How about LDAP? Anybody heard about LDAP? LDAP? Okay. So Kerberos is like it's nobody works in IT does not know what Kerberos. So it's the authentication, especially in Windows, is the authentication server initially created by MIT, and it's used everywhere. Okay. Nowadays they are usually integrated with LDAP. LDAP is a directory server, and Kerberos is authentication server. So basically, anywhere Windows is a Kerberos authentication. It's a very complex system, and here just look through. So basically, in here, Kerberos is an authentication protocol, and at the same time, a KDC that has become very popular. Several systems, including Windows 2000 and all the Windows, use Kerberos. Originally designed by MIT, it has gone through. So I think now we have version 5. I think we have version 5 now. Okay, so it's gone through, so basically in here in the Kerberos system, what you're gonna have, this is you have like the user. I mean, think about now what you're authenticating, like a client to a server, Think about like HTTP server. Think about Bob as HTTP server, and think Alice is like a client. You're a client, the Google client. Okay, so you're authenticating services, right? So in here, the KDC has 2 items inside it. 2 items. The first item is, remember, Kerberos. What does it do? 2 things: authentication and key management. Both. So it has the first part is AS, which is authentication server, and the second one is ticket granting server. So to give a ticket. Okay, it's exactly like when you go to stadium to watch a game, what they give you, or a movie, what they give you, ticket. Okay, usually this ticket is time limited, right? You don't have a ticket forever, right? So you buy a ticket, you could go within certain time, and that's exactly what happens. So in short, all right, if you have a service, okay, would like to authenticate with the server, the first step is to do authentication with the AS, with the authentication server, authentication, all right? Then after that, when you authenticate, okay, it will grant you a ticket that authenticate, so the Alice will be authenticated to the authentication server. So that means Alice is a valid service or a valid person. It's all good, nothing wrong about it. So you authenticating what? The client. As a client. You don't authenticate what they're gonna do. Authenticate them, they are valid, part of the system, right? Okay? Alright? Now after that, what you have to do? You have to authenticate what they can do, a kind of authorization. So there is authenticate and there is authorization, right? Then now after the authentication, depends on what they're gonna do, they're gonna give you a ticket. Alright? A ticket. Right? Think about like going to a stadium, okay, when you go to stadium. So at the door, what they have to do, they have to verify you. They're gonna check your ID. So they have to authenticate that you are a good person to get in. Okay, then you could purchase tickets, ticket for popcorns, ticket for seat, ticket whatever for food, ticket, right? So it will give you tickets to use the different services. That's exactly what's happening in here. Okay, tickets, and this ticket is time limited, so it expires. All right, but you have to renew it. You could renew it automatically, right? That's the system. So what will happen in here? Alice or the user request ticket for ticket granting server. So first authenticate you. Please authenticate me and give me a ticket to the ticket granting center. Ticket to the ticket. Okay, granting center. Then Alice ticket granting center session key and ticket for ticket granting center. It will be authorized and will be given ticket that they could take it to the ticket granting center. Then after that, because now you have a ticket, you're gonna go to the request a ticket for Bob. Now you're authenticated, you have a ticket, you go to the ticket, I need a ticket to go to Bob, to communicate with Bob, to use Bob, to use a service in Bob. Alright? Now, he has it. I mean, we'll get it. Alice, Bob, session, key, and key for Bob. Then Bob now has Alice has the ticket for Bob. Then request access. All right. Now request access. When you request access from the server with the ticket, it will grant you an access. All right. Clear? Okay. So again. So now the Kerberos server has two, let me repeat, it has two entities, and you need to help me. I forget fast myself. Okay? Okay, so now what is a Kerberos? It's a server. Okay? It's a server, right? For
Windows.
For two things.
Authentication.
Okay. Authentication and key management. So that's why it has two boxes inside it. Alright? Okay. It's created by who? MIT. It has many versions. What version we have now? 5 or 4. We use 4 or 5 nowadays. Okay. Again, any system administrator knows Kerberos upside down. And that's their daily work, right? Okay. Okay. So exactly the technique is the first thing is, I mean, in here we are not trying to authenticate users, by the way. This author kept using Alice and Bob just for continuity. Okay? We are now, client is authenticating to a server. Client to a server, right? Think of server like HTTP server and the client like a request from a browser, right? So what is the first thing needs to be done? You need to authenticate the client as a part of the whole system. So the client claims that he is Dr. Abu's name. We need to authenticate him. Okay? And give him a ticket to the ticket granting center. Alright, now I'm authenticated, I have the ticket, then I send message to where? To the second box, which is ticket granting center. Okay, I have the ticket, hello, I need my popcorn. Actually, I need to communicate with Bob. Alright? He's already authorized, we'll give him a ticket to communicate with Bob, a different ticket. This ticket will take it to where? To Bob. Then Bob will authenticate and they can use the service.
Does it come all like in a separate server or
It's an application server. Nowadays, in real life, we use Kerberos with what? With LDAP. What's LDAP? It's a directory server. What's a directory server? Where you have all the users and the groups and, you know, okay, this is called directory server.
active directory?
Hmm?
Active directory.
What?
Active directory.
It's active directory. It's like active. So active directory is Windows creation. Okay. So if you have like a pure Windows environment, use Active Directory with the Kerberos. Okay,
To balance it
but
out.
if you have like mixed systems, you have Unix, you have different ATM, whatever, usually use LDAP. So thank you so much. Active Directory is like a parallel to kind of parallel server to the LDAP. All right. Actually, in my 3 years when I used to teach, or 4 years when I used to teach this course from a different textbook, okay, I used to give them a homework, okay, for them to research the Kerberos and Active Directory. Okay, so and how they are implemented, how they are interact, how that was history. Okay, long time ago, 4 or 5 years ago. All right, so we understand the concepts, right? Clear? Alright. Alright. So it has again authentication server. The authentication server is the KDC in the Kerberos server. Is the KDC, Key Distribution Center. Key Distribution Center. The ticket granting server, TGS, is a ticket granting server issues a ticket for the real server. It will give the ticket for, okay, once you have it, you could access, that. And the real server, what's the real server? It's Bob. Bob provides service for the Alice. Again, in this context, it's not a great, example, in my opinion, to use Alice and Bob. Yeah, because in here we are not talking about Alice and Bob communicating, no. We're talking about a client application communicating with server application. Clear? Okay, so that's and actually that's what we put in here. So user, Alice, and server, Bob, and Authenticator. Alright, this is the whole protocol. It's very complicated. You could take a look at it, take your time at home, enjoy it. Alright. And again, he did not explain much about it. Okay. Note that if Alice needs to receive services from different servers, she needs to repeat only. Okay. So once you are authenticated to the system, you authenticate to the system. The system has how many servers? One or many? Many. So you get authenticated once. But whenever you need to access a different server, just you're gonna get a ticket, another ticket, you don't have to go the whole process again. You authenticated once, but you're gonna get multiple tickets for that. So now we have version 5. Okay. Mostly version 4 used, but version 5 is just it's used, and this is like the upgrades that they have. Then after that, so it's clear now. Key management. We spoke about the key management. Then now symmetric key agreement. Symmetric key agreement. So Alice and Bob can create a session key between themselves without using a KDC. Not always that we need to have a KDC. So you could create a session without having a KDC. This method of session key creation is referred as symmetric key agreement. Symmetric key agreement. Although there are several ways to accomplish this, only 2 common methods: the Diffie-Hellman and the station-to-station. All right, you understand. So when we need 2 systems to communicate to change a key, the obvious way is to use a KDC, but not necessarily. You don't have to have a KDC. There's, they could communicate together, and they could share the keys. The first technique mentioned in here is Diffie-Hellman, and Diffie-Hellman is just basically is a process. So again, the 2 parties need to choose 2 numbers like B and G, okay, and the first number B is a large prime number on order of 300, large prime, like 300 digits or more, okay. The second number G is a generator of order P minus 1, okay, less than the first one, okay. And then you do, and there is a process to do that. So that you have the B and G, okay. Then you calculate. Alice will calculate R1 versus G to the power X mod B, and this will be R1. So R1. then R2 will be calculated by Bob, it will be sent. So now both will have R1 and R2, all right? And the key simply by multiplying the two things, like, you know, it's like K equals G to the power, because now both have the XY, G power XY mod B. That will be the key. So bottom line here, they exchange the keys together because you could use it through a certain operation. So this is an example, I think. So this is an example in here. So remember, P is a prime number, is a very long 300 digit, and G was a generator. You calculate X, you calculate Y from the equation, then you calculate R1, R2, and the key is calculated. Simple mathematics, key equals G to the power XY mod B. Okay, what's P? A number, a big prime number chosen, and two, you know, chosen, and then they will communicate. Of course, to break it, this is Diffie-Hellman. You need to have the discrete logarithmic attack and a middle in the map attack. Okay. The other one is the other technique. Again, what we are talking about here, how to exchange a key without KDC. The book mentioned two, the Diffie-Hellman and the station-to-station technique. Station-to-station technique in here. Same thing, certain process, take a look at it, follow it, and okay. Then after that, we'll go to, okay, public key distribution. So now for public key distribution, how to have, like, you know, the public key distribution. So, in the asymmetric key, how many keys we have? Two, private and public. So the private, everybody has his own private. We need to distribute the public key, right? So the public key, where you could put it? You could put it in your web page. Okay, you could put it right in your wall. You could write it in your car. Okay, you could write it anywhere. You could write it in your house, right? But the only problem that, you know, some people could not use the public key. They claim that's their public key, but it's not their public key. So the problem is we have to have a third party that we could. So as in asymmetric key cryptography, people do not need to know asymmetric shared key. Everyone shields the private key and advertises the public key. So Bob has a public key, advertises to everyone. The only problem, what is the venue to advertise it? What is the venue? Okay, I have a public key. If I need to give it to all of you, how can I give it to you? I could email it to you. I could put it in my web page. I could put it anywhere, you know. So basically, we have trusted center, which has like table, database, directory, users with their public keys. Okay, with public keys. So if I need to get any of you, the public key of any of you, I have to communicate with the public key. So it's a very simple. Okay, so Alice would like to have the public key of Bob, let's say. So it will send a message to this center. I need Bob's key and the timestamp. It will go in here. It needs Bob. It goes to Bob. That's the key, right? Then it will send it back to Alice. All right, signed. That's the whole key. The whole problem. If I need to get you a public key, how can I make sure it's your own public key? So the only job of the third party here to send you the public key signed. So you trust this party because they signed it for you. That's it. Otherwise, I could get it from a web page. But how can I know this web page is your web page? So I could, for example, what's your name? Ashish. I could create a website. I say my name is Ashish Hernandez. Let's say your last name Hernandez. Okay. All right. And I put public key. So somebody needs to communicate with you. Go to this way, take the public key, and they send the message. But it's not you. So I need to get the public key from a place I know it's authentic, signed. All right. I cannot get hold of you to sign up your, okay. So I can get it from you trust. You give your public key to that center, and anybody needs your public key will get it from where? From the center, signed. Okay, that's the whole idea. We're done. All right. So we have in here the public key. Okay, signed with the timestamp and signed by the center's private key. All right, and signed private key, and it will be sent to Alice. Can Alice verify the signature? Yes, because it's signed by the private key of the center. Just use the public key of the center, and you will check that, you verify the signature, and you have it. Very simple, very elegant. Okay. So that's the certification authority. That's what it is. So again, what you do in here, one, so a POP applying POP's public key, as POP public key, it will be sent to the center, okay, and and you could revoke it if you need to revoke it, and it will, and you send it, they will issue a certificate which has your public key, and this could be distributed to everyone. Actually, yourself, if you need to distribute your public key, you should not just post it. You should get it signed by the center, and you distribute the signed one. Because people now will be able to verify it was signed. As simple as that, right? So for that, we use a standard called X509. X509 is a certificate. A place will issue certificates for the public IDs. So as you look in here, and that's what is used in Windows, in your browsers, everywhere. 509, X509. Alright? So basically in here, you'll have a version number, the serial number for the certificate. So in here what we are shows the format of the certificate. So you have the version number of the 509, the serial number, every certificate issued, but it has a serial number, signature algorithm ID. So what is the algorithm ID? There's so many algorithms to encrypt it. So which one? Okay, the issuer name, Dr. Abu's name, the verified period. Verified period means what? From to. So any certificate, many times when you download applications or you try to go to website, what they tell you, certificate is expired. That's how you authenticate, by certificates. All right. And what's expired? What you have to do? Renew it. That's it. So that's why we have the period, the subject name. We give it a subject, the subject public key. Okay. And in here, what we have, you have the issuer unique identifier, the subject unique identifier, and extensions, and the signature. How you create the signature? You take all of these. You move to hash function, you get digest. Then you signature algorithm. Remember in the previous lecture, we said when we try to sign, what we sign, the message or the digest? The digest, because it will be shorter. Okay? So we sign the digest, and this is the signed digest, you attach it back to here to the signature. So the signature has all of these plus the hash algorithm ID that the one you use, the cipher ID, the parameters, and the digest. So that's what the certificate. Certificate is information with a signature, exactly like any document you have. You have information, and in the end you're gonna have your signature. You'll have your signature. All right. So we have something called certificate renewal, certificate revocation, to revoke it for different reasons, okay, there's a system to revoke, so this is in here, certificate revocation process, how it happens, and some duties of PKI duties, certificate issuing, keys, storage, and update, providing services to other protocols, and providing access control Okay, this is the public key infrastructure, public key infrastructure. Public key infrastructures. Alright. So as you see in here in the public key infrastructure, okay, is hierarchical model again. So you have the root. So the CA, for example, signs CA1 signs user 1, user 2, user 3, all right, and so on and so forth. So X2, the arrow means X to Y, means X has signed a certificate for Y, all right. And now, for example, if user 1 would like to get the public key, the key of user 3, they have to go through certificate authority 1 and so on and so forth. Alright? So this is an example show how user 1, knowing only the public key of the CA, the root, can obtain a verified copy of user 3. So how can user 1 knows only CA, how it can get the public key of user 3. So user 3 sends a chain of certificates, so to CA1, and CA1 will send it to user 3 and user 2. So it's like a chain from, you're gonna go forward. In here, mesh model, not the hierarchical model. So the roots, each root signs each other. So root 1 signs root 2 and root 2 signs root 1. Okay, and this we call the mesh model, means X and Y have signed a certificate for each other. Anyways, so what we have learned in this chapter, which is a very important, and I told you we just touched base. We touched base, okay. We learned, about, the key management is a big issue in this field. And there is a lot of research for its efficiency, especially nowadays, like with the IoT, with a lot. So we spoke about the key management, how the key are, exchanged and managed, and we have to have a KDC, key distribution center. Then how this system's used, or how it's used to get the shared key. Then we spoke about Kerberos. Kerberos is the most famous authentication server, and KDC used in Windows and many environments. There is no systems administrator does not know Kerberos. We deal with it all the time. Then we spoke about Symmetric Key Agreements. Symmetric Key Agreement. So whenever I need to exchange key, but I don't wanna use KDC. So we spoke about two techniques to do that. The first one is Diffie-Hellman key agreement, and the second one it was station-to-station key agreement. And then we spoke about public key distribution. And asymmetric, there's a private key, public key. Private key is yours. How we can exchange the public key. So there's something called PKI, public key infrastructure, where you could share. And the most important, system, kind of the standard for exchanging the certified public keys is X509. X509. Okay, that is what was used. So today I think we covered, a very important topics. The first one is entity authentication. The second one is key management, and these go together like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. Okay, they go together. All right. So you need, use key management for entity authentication, and for entity authentication you need to exchange keys also. They go together. All right. So. Okay, so we did very well. All right, you did very well. Thank you so much. Now we're gonna start our course. What's the name of our course? Network security, and part 4 is network security. So that was the prereq. Okay, for the network security. Okay, for the network security, as I told you, okay, that you know the OSI reference model, right? All of us know that. Anybody does not know it?
What was that?
OSI reference model,
Okay.
right? The 7 layers,
Mhm.
right? So basically, we apply security measures in the application layer, security measures in the network layer, and in the transport layer. Okay, so we're gonna study these layers. What kind of so for example, when we talk about SSL or TLS, what is that? In the transport layer. When we spoke about IPsec, where is that? In the network layer. Okay, when we talk about PGP, what is PGP? PGP, pretty good privacy. Okay, it's a system for securing the attachments in email and all of that. PGP. It's MIME. Did you hear S/MIME? Also, it's in the application level, right? So security. It goes all the down even to the data link layer, but we are not going to go that down. Okay, so that's the only thing. We have 3 more chapters in this book, and you will, I think you'll have enough information about cybersecurity and network security. So you could, fly after that. You could do a lot of things.
So
Alright.
do you mean that we only apply this network security in the 3 layers, not the other one?
What?
We only apply it in the 3 layers, not the other one.
You apply them in all the layers.
Only
Okay, but this is like special, like for example, I mean, remember what I told you, that this is a prerequisite. So when you talk about TLS SSL, what is TLS or SSL? You use SSL. What is SSL?
Secure sockets.
So to secure the data, what are you gonna use? Some cryptographic technique. You have to have key management. You have to, right? So you're just gonna learn it. We're gonna learn it. What exactly? How is it structured? How it works? Very complex. Very complex. Exactly like when we went inside DAS, for example. So it's like a big box. Inside of a few boxes. And each one box you open it, there's more boxes. Take the small box, there's more boxes. Then we're gonna take a look how it works. All right, and that's what it is. So you are, you're the expert. When you're becoming the expert, you know things how it works. All right. So we'll move on. All right, and hopefully now for the project. What time is it?
8.
Okay. For the project, how? So next week we're supposed to have presentation.
We didn't pick the
What?
groups yet, we didn't pick the subjects.
You did not pick the topic yet.
No,
Take your time. You still have 1 week.
So,
Okay.
so presentation, like what presentation?
You have a presentation next week. So what we agreed on last week, that next week that you form groups. You're gonna pick like whatever bunch of papers, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, depends on the group size. You're gonna read them together, and that's what we call it, literature survey. Okay, and that's what you need to present, the literature survey, and then you're gonna come with a problem statement. Nothing yet. I understand you did not implement anything, you did not solve a problem, just you have a literature survey, you're coming up with an idea. You're gonna present the idea for us. Alright? Do you think next week is too early?
Yes.
Okay, who would like to delay it for the following week? Raise your hand. Okay, then it's one person will to follow.
I mean,
Okay.
for
We
just-
able to do the problem statement next.
So right, like for the present, it's basically the what we are gonna discuss and get the problem statement. That is basically.
That's it. Okay, the literature survey,
Yeah.
the literature survey, which is a summary, kind of summary of what you read. I mean, you have to explain to the people what's the problem. There is a lot of, by the way, there is 1 billion problems related to security in the whole world. 1.5 billion maybe. Okay, I did not count yet. I did not finish counting. There are so many problems, right? So you're gonna pick one problem and explain it to us. Folks, this is one issue, okay, a problem. It was discussed by these authors, and they suggested this, but their solution did not work out because. And then the other group of people, they presented a paper, a journal, at this topic. And that's their solution, but you know, it works well, but there it has some problems. Then another group published in this journal X and Y, Z. And their approach little bit different from the first one, but so close the second one. The difference is so and so. And they got better results, all right? Then yourself, you are an engineer, right? Engineer, you took a good course, you learned a lot, you took a lot of classes in your life, and okay, you analyze it, right? So you gotta tell, well, I think the first approach, you know, if the authors did this instead of that, or okay, it will have, well, you know, then you critical, right? Or you could get the critiques from other authors who criticize it, right? All right. So you're gonna make it clear for us what is the problem at your hand you're trying to solve. All right. All right. Okay. So that's what it is. So usually some students don't understand what I'm talking about. Tell them, let's pretend the problem at hand is there is a machine which is like 40 feet, 30 feet by 20 feet. We need to bring to this room. All right, how to bring it to this room, all right? So do literature survey. They go literature survey, they pick a paper, they say the paper is, you know, to break it in parts, and each part size, maximum has to be the size of the door. Then we get it in, we assemble it here, and that's a solution. So that's a good solution. What is the problem? That you could deassemble the machine, but you can't bring it back. That's a drawback, right? All right. So that's okay. Then you read another paper. The other paper, they said, you know, what we could do, we have like, you know, a bomb. We make a hole in the ceiling, okay, and we go in the above ceiling. We make a bigger hole, and we drop it live from top, and we put it in the room, and all of that. What's the problem with that? Well, hold on, using bombs here. I mean, you could destroy the whole building. It's not a good solution, right? Okay, but you know, all right. It's not. Sorry for the silly example. I'm not trying, but you know, it's a problem at your hand. A problem related to security. Okay. So, for example, RSA, it suffers from a statistical analysis that could help the cryptanalysis, right? That's a good word. Cryptanalysis, okay, to break in the code and all of that, right? Okay, so there is people who studied the problem, how this could be, in what situation, okay, what the suggested, okay. So it's not one paper. I mean, somebody came to my office, you know, it's very hard to find like, I mean, like a problem that has many papers. No, okay, I mean, each problem will find like hundreds and tens of hundreds, which is like thousands of papers about the problem. Okay, just you have to search very well. That's the whole problem. Okay, and if you cannot find a problem already discussed, create one, make one and present it. Okay. So the idea here to get yourself trained how to read these scientific papers and how people go about it. Okay, how to think about it. And by the way, many of the problems are virtual. Okay, virtual. So virtual, that means not real. Example, in wireless sensor network, you know what's wireless sensor network? Sensors communicating, all right? And we need to secure them, either for privacy or data security or whatever, right? Okay? So somebody, he created, or she created, somebody created this algorithm for data communication between the sensors. So this algorithm or this protocol is a theory. It's not applied anywhere. Somebody created and published a paper. Then another person came in here, okay, this is doing great job, but let's discuss the security of this algorithm. If we apply it, how we will maintain the security and the privacy. This is a theory. The whole protocol is a theory. So although it started from someone, okay, you'll find like another like 20, 30 papers discussing issues with, that's how it's science. Starts with fiction, hypothesis, okay? So you're not, it's not necessarily that you are addressing a problem already existing or for a protocol that already is used. Something suggested, it's not applied, all right? By the way, for example, I mean, there are so many technologies that were existing many years back. Do you know that, for example, the technology of USB, you know, the USB, okay, was existing like 35 years ago? But we just started using it when? Like 10 years ago only? So many things of the technology that we use existed long time ago. The companies nowadays, every day, every month, you know, I mean, you go to Google, you go to Amazon, you go to small startup companies. All they do all the day, they work and they do patents, right? That's what they do, like register patents, right? Nobody uses them, nobody knows about them, maybe somebody will use them. So that's the whole idea. I'm not sure if I confused you more. If I did, I apologize, okay? But next week we're gonna have a presentation, all right? And you have to be part of a group. So even if you work by yourself, register to be a group, even one single group, and we'll go in sequential, if you don't mind. We'll go group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, all right? So please, for your PowerPoint presentation, try to upload it to the campus one day or the same day before the class. So what I will do before the class, I'll download all the PowerPoint in my laptop, all right? So you could present from my laptop. You don't have to keep switching laptops.
But how much time?